Welcome, everyone. My name is Emily Baker, as Graham said, and I'm an executive coach and I co-lead with my partner here, Erin, a couple programs. And we're going to talk about Take More Listings now today.
Yeah, you know what, Emily? One of the things that Gary always says is that you need to list to last, right? We need to lead with listings. It's the tip of the spear, and I'm excited. It's going to be a good call today. We're gonna talk about what it looks like, and we're even going to give a little bit of practical, tactical takeaways that they can implement now. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. If y'all want to drop in the chat, let us know where you're from, city and state.
As always, anytime we're practicing in our real estate business, we are going to make sure we're following the do not call protocols. And of course, we're going to be TCPA compliant. If you have any questions about what that looks like, you can study this slide here and it'll answer most of your questions. So, all right, Emily, should we just jump into it?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right. So, tip number one when it comes to taking more listings is it's important, as Gary says, to become the economist of choice. What does that mean, Emily?
Yeah, being the economist of choice starts with a few things, right? It's first of all knowing your numbers. Okay. So we've got to know our numbers. The path is in the math, as we always say, in order to achieve our goal. And Gary always says, when you hit your listings taken goal, meaning you're hitting your listings signed every month, you will inherently hit your year-end closing goal. Because can we all agree that listings are your best marketing tool for generating additional business?
Yes.
Yeah. The other piece of that, Erin, there's a couple things, right? It's understanding the message of the moment, right? The message of the market. What is the message? There's a lot of uncertainty out there. Are y'all seeing that? Type it in the chat. We like this to be interactive, but I mean, we're hearing
Well,
so much.
yeah, I mean, Anna from, I don't know where Anna's from, but she said it. How do we work with this current client of market of fear, right? There's a lot of fear in the market, uncertainty, fear. It's challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And my best way to overcome that, I always say facts trump feelings. And that's understanding the market as a whole, right? Because we understand that from a national standpoint, that's where they're seeing news, right? That's where they're getting the headlines. They're hearing all the things that are going on right through these news outlets. And so we want to go and understand national trends, right? And then we also want to go to our local trends and then write down lower level to their specific area, whether that is their neighborhood, whether that's their zip code, right? Depending on where you are geographically, where that makes sense based on their property type. But it's really understanding and articulating to clients, here's what's happening and showing them visibly, right? Here's what's happening from a national uh, trend, right?
Yeah. And Yassina asked the great question. What numbers are we talking about? So, Emily, on the national side, we're talking about listing inventory, and
Yep,
Gary presents it twice a year at Family Reunion and Mega Camp in the vision speech. He gives
that's
us
right.
the numbers.
That's right.
The two most important numbers, listing inventory, and
Mhm.
then, of course, number of homes sold each month.
And I'm going to add a third number in there, which is the average price year over year, right? Because at the end of the day, the number one thing that we hear, Erin, that sellers, and we've gone on thousands of appointments and we know, right? They always care about netting the most amount of money, right? What is top dollar? And sellers are stubborn right now with that, especially I see where some of y'all are from. And I know your markets have shifted because I coach in some of them and man, those conversations. So navigating that and then going to the local level, right? Which is what's average days on market? What's the list price to sales price? What's the average price point in the market? What's our month supply? How many properties are expiring? How many properties are reducing in price, right? So those are just a few numbers that if you track week over week locally, you're going to see trends and essentially it'll help you on your messaging of the moment because what we hear right now, especially in some markets is I don't think this is a good time to sell, right? And going back to facts, trend feelings, that's interesting because just last week we had 97 properties go under contract. So buyers are still buying. I'm curious, What's causing you to believe that it's not a good time to sell, right? But if you track that and you can quickly say, or just pull your hot sheet, right? Quickly say how many in the last 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, whatever you have it set to, that's going to create the urgency of getting it to where no, real estate's not stopping, right? Real estate homes are still selling. But it's understanding from a national to a local to the hyper focused area when you meet them.
Yeah, Emily, just for the sake of Anna, because she's in the chat, she's in Las Vegas. I was talking to a client of ours in Las
Yep.
Vegas. Year over year, inventory Las Vegas up 75%. It's up 75%. That's an important number to know when we're out taking listings. I was talking to another client in Minneapolis, and he felt like it was a little bit quiet. And I said, well, wait a minute, let's actually look at the numbers locally. So we went and we tracked deals under contract so far in May versus April. And the amazing thing is that he was seeing the same number of homes going under contract each week in May that they saw in April. Yet his experience was that it was slow. The reality, when you looked at the numbers, is it wasn't. Homes were still selling and the same amount of them each week. So it's important to become the economist of choice, because telling the story of those numbers is going to help us convert and win more listings. Agreed?
That's right. 100%. Yep. All right. Tip number 2 is getting sellers to call you. And the question that we get asked a lot is, well, how do you do that? Right? Who doesn't want more sellers calling them?
Yeah. And listen, sellers calling you can be one of two things. It can be more people from your database proactively reaching out to you,
Yep.
or it could become marketing based.
Yep.
Now, Emily, if we're talking about our databases, one of the things that we have to understand is, first off, in our market, who's actually selling? So if you were to go do a survey across the listings in your market, who would actually be selling? And how do we now tell that story, that message to our database such that more people reach out to us because we're speaking to them, so to speak?
Yep.
And here's a news flash. 75% of listings in your market, because this is across the country, this is nationally, 75% of listings are either a boomer downsizing, a senior transitioning, or a family inheriting property. That makes up about 75% of the inventory. And so, Emily, it's just a matter of, okay, well, if we know that's who's selling, then what do we need to do with our messaging inside of our database such that it's causing them to reach out to us because we get them. We're speaking to them.
That's exactly right. There are a few things, right? Aaron and I believe that there are multiple ways to get sellers to call you. Okay. There are multiple ways to win. You don't have to pound the phones if you don't want to, right? You don't have to do everything. You just have to focus on one thing and do it really, really well, right? Path to mastery. And there are 4 ways to communicate, right? We have face to face, voice to voice, digital or print. And what we need to understand is there are some levers that we can pull in getting sellers to call us through demographic trends, going back to who are the people who are selling, who doesn't care about interest rates, right? Who doesn't care that they're sitting on, a 2% interest rate, right? And that again is boomers downsizing, seniors transitioning, and families inheriting property. And that's typically you're going to see those boomers, baby boomers, and Gen X. Which also leads us to the next piece, Aaron.
There you go. I was typing. You said it. I couldn't type as fast. All right. What's the next piece?
Yeah, the next piece is the referral relationships that create consistent referrals to your business as a listing agent. Because again, going back to we've got a list to last, right? Less properties are being sold. That's just a fact, right? So there are less real estate transactions that are out there happening in the market. So who are on the front lines of these boomers that are downsizing, the seniors who are transitioning, the families who are inheriting properties, right? Who are the professionals? Who are the vendors and allied resource relationships? This is such a huge opportunity I see all the time, right? Who gets the call before you, right? from a vendor
Well,
getting their
let's
carpet cleaned and so forth.
let's pause on that for a minute and let's break it down. So if we know that 75% are boomers downsizing, seniors transitioning, families inheriting property. So let's take the boomer downsizing. By the way, it looks different ways. Sometimes boomers downsizing is boomers upsizing. They're saying, hey, wait a minute, we're going to sell the family home and we're actually going to buy this really nice single level near the pickleball courts. It's not always we're getting rid of a big house to get a small house.
That's
Um,
right.
one of the most popular things boomers are doing right now in terms of downsizing, they're selling off rental properties. They own rental properties. They're getting noisy. They're getting to the point where they need capital, expenditures, new roofs, stuff like that. And they're saying, you know what? Sell the property. I'll cash it out. I'll pay the tax. I'll stick it in the bank, and I'll probably make just as much, if not more, doing that than hanging on to this property. So we're seeing that happening. Yet, either way, that boomer downsizing, they've got a bunch of equity, right, Emily?
Yep.
The first call is typically to their CPA asking the question, hey, if I sell my house, how much am I going to owe in capital gain taxes? The CPA typically knows before we do. That senior transitioning, let's say they're transitioning, because transitioning looks different ways, right? Let's say they're transitioning into a retirement care facility, right? Stony Brook Senior Living or whatever it is. Not cheap, is it? Right?
Nope.
Depending on what state you're on, it's between $4,000 and $8,000 a month. Yet it's what needs to happen. First call is typically to the financial planner. Hey, we need to sell mom's house. Here's how much we think it's worth. If we give you this money, will it cover the cost of mom's care? And then, of course, those families inheriting property, either via probate, via trust, those estate planning attorneys, they're going to hear about it before we do.
Yep.
So how many of those relationships can we go and create such that we've got 5, 10, 15, I think 25 is the right number, referral relationships, referral partners that with proper follow-up every month is generating 2, 3, 4 listing referrals a month. Because they cannot do their business without coming across someone that has a real estate need. It would be impossible.
That's exactly right. And what I would say to that too is if you're sitting here and you're going, man, I love referrals, right? I've built a referral based business, or I've started to build a referral based business, or I've had a referral based business, and yet my database isn't converting like it used to, right? Anyone that like that, because I see that all the time, right? The database is just, again, there are less deals being done. So you can take that like your natural behavioral style and you can transition that into these vendor and professional referral partners, and we go through exactly how to do that in our training.
Well, because, and if we just use this one piece, because this is an exciting one. Some people like face-to-face. I've got a client, Emily, who he's like, no, I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to email them. I'd rather just go knock on their door. I'd rather just do some business door knocking because he loves face-to-face. Okay, cool. Go for it. I have clients who prefer to connect digitally, right? They'd rather send an email first, right? Such that that email elicits a response that then sets an appointment. Okay, that works. Some of us, like you or I, would just, let me just pick up the phone, right? Going out in person and knocking on the door sounds too difficult, right? Sending an email, that's not aggressive enough. Let me just pick up the phone, do not call TCPA compliant, make a call, right? And get introduced that way. And some people prefer to send a note, send a letter, send a package, send some piece of direct mail that starts the relationship. So like you said, there's
On social media.
yeah, the beauty about whether it's getting sellers to call you, whether it's creating referral relationships, depending on what your style is, what your preferred style, there's a way to win with each one of these lead gen levers. Would you agree?
Yep.
I'd be remiss if we didn't go back real quick to getting sellers to call you. We didn't even talk about the biggest one, the marketing piece. The most, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
most popular way for sellers to call you, if you want to do marketing based via direct mail, the golden
Yep.
letter.
That's right.
The golden letter. So I just wanted to go back and mention that because that's a big piece that we train to because we do it.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that you can make millions of dollars doing golden letters. And it's not that I'm just saying that as a theory. If you want to become a millionaire real estate agent and go deep on something, that is, I mean, we've seen it, right? We've seen it with Will in Maine, right? He took that one piece and he's made over $1 million 3 years in a row. And that's what he does.
and it's all sellers calling you. Yeah, Tiffany, the golden letter is very simple. It's, dear seller, would you be interested in selling your home at 123 Main Street to a client of mine? Question mark. If so, please call me with your phone number. And then you sign it.
Yep.
That letter goes into an envelope that gets hand addressed with a stamp. And the best part about that system, Emily, it's the most cost-effective marketing you can do outside of your database, which is free. It's the most cost-effective marketing you can do to have sellers call you, because it cost well, I know postage is going up, but let's assume postage is still 60 whatever cents. Plus, let's say the cost of paper, ink, envelope. That letter is about 75 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if you send out 500 a month, which is what we recommend, which is 25 a day, which by the way, takes 30 minutes a day if you do it yourself. Those 500 letters will elicit on the low end a 1% response rate. So you're gonna have 5 sellers calling you, and it costs you about $375 to implement, which means each seller lead costs you about 80 bucks. In your market, Emily, how much would Zillow charge you for that seller lead?
400 to 800.
In my market, 1,200 bucks. Clearly, we're in different markets. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And going back to Tiffany's question, even if you don't have a buyer, what's the one question Gary teaches us to ask ourselves on every single listing we walk into? What's the first question he says we should be asking ourselves?
Am I going to buy this?
Should I buy this house?
Yep.
Well, I don't have the money. Well, if you have a deal, the money shows up.
That's right.
So at any moment in time, you're the buyer, or you work with investors, because what that golden letter lead has to decide is, do they want to net the most money possible, or do they want ease of sale? You can't have both, right? You can't have both. So even if you don't have a buyer, you are the buyer. You work with buyers. That's not a false claim. And Jason sent me a message. Does the golden letter work on expires and for sale by owners? It's part of our training. We have an expired golden letter.
Yep. And in terms of, Victoria asked, great question, is a white envelope okay, or should it be colored envelope for the mail? I've had clients do both, and honestly, I don't see a difference in response. What about you, Aaron? Do you see a difference in colored versus white?
I don't. I always use I use white. I hand address. I know Will's a little controversial. He says he puts he does a label.
Label. Yeah.
I'm not for the label. I like to hand address. That's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opens a hand addressed.
We do spend all day, and we could spend all day on just that one thing, but we gotta move on to the next tip, tip. All right. Mastering prospecting and taking your unfair share. What does that mean?
I'm curious in the chat, are you all seeing more expireds come on in your market? Are you seeing more of those pop up? Yes. Okay. I'm seeing that across the board. We coach across the country, and I'm seeing that as well as in Canada. What about for sale by owners? For those of you who track or look at those, are you seeing longer days on market for those?
I'm seeing more for sale by owners, Emily, because clients are coming across people who sold or who bought in the last 1, 2, 3 years, and they just haven't, whoops, I don't know how that happened. They haven't built enough equity.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So mastering prospecting and taking your unfair share, this is definitely a shifted market, is the time to prospect, right? To be you could be prospecting based, marketing enhanced, or marketing enhanced prospecting based. If you want to go take your unfair share, there are some levers that you can pull in terms of prospecting to simplify and go take your unfair share. Now, I know there are lots of objections around those couple lead sources, right? They're not always the most fun or preferred, and yet I love them. Aaron, I know you love them. And there are some ways that you can communicate. Like we said, we do the expired golden letter, right? You do the same thing for sale by owner. You can do the same thing for a non-owner occupied.
Yeah, you know what? Prospecting gets a bad rap. And most of the time when you say expired, people automatically think over the phone, over the phone. TCPA do not call compliant, of course, if that's the route. And yet, you know what's happening, what's not happening on expireds? No one's door knocking them.
Yep.
No one's doing the golden letters to the expireds. No one's researching them digitally and finding them on social media and connecting with them that way. So expired doesn't just mean pick up a phone and grind out hard conversations. Expired means whichever way you like to contact. If there's a geographic area you work and you want to own that area, then yeah, you should probably take one of these methods and start to use it to go find more opportunities.
That's exactly right. Yeah, there's so much opportunity out there. Like I said, even though it may feel more difficult, there's a way to work smarter versus harder and to go take the market share because it's definitely shifting around. People, I mean, there's so much opportunity. Um, and then let's go to the next one. One of the things that I'm also seeing, and Aaron, I know you're seeing this too, is set to met percentages have gone down.
Yeah.
Right? No shows have increased.
Mhm.
So the ultimate pre-qualification and pre-list process, right? What do we need to know, right? We want to know location, timeline, price point, motivation, agency. Are they working with other agents? We want to know, do they have a mortgage, right? What are, are they planning on taking their equity for their next move? And who are the decision makers? The other thing that we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of getting spoused right now.
Explain that one.
Yeah. So getting spoused is when you have one decision maker present and they say, this all sounds great. I need to talk it over with my spouse. Right. And it's preventing us from moving forward because let's be honest, right? They're not going to communicate as well as you, right? They're not going to go through the market numbers. They're not going to go through the data that we go through in our consultations, right? They're not going to go through those things and they need to think it over. They need to discuss it. And then, oh, my wife has a friend and I think we're going to go that direction. And so forth. And then pre-appointment, this is a huge opportunity for agents to differentiate yourself in the competitive market when you're going up against 3, 4, 5 agents for this listing. How do you differentiate yourself from the competition?
Emily, this is really important because we know that the competition on these listings is fierce. And, there's a little bit of desperation out there for some of those agents on their way out, no one on this call. And yet it's competitive, right? And one of those ways to differentiate yourself is not just being great at pre-qualifying and asking great questions ahead of time, which is professional, but that pre-list process. I was talking to a client this morning and there's a listing she's taking and it's a second home or an investment property. And she showed up. And of course, everyone, the other agents had their pre-list package,
Mhm.
as did my client, and they were laid out on the counter. Yet one of the things that my client does to differentiate herself in a competitive market is she always comes with a little gift. She has this little box of candies, customized, whatever.
Yep.
The only thing the seller took, the only, because this wasn't her home, it was a second home and she was getting out of there. Guess what the only thing she took off the counter was when she got out of there?
The gift.
The gift. And guess what's going to win her this listing? The gift, right? It was part of her pre-list process. Not that we have to go and, have these elaborate gifts, yet it differentiated herself from the competition in her market. And it's that important.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right. You're doing great, Aaron. Aaron's our tech
I
man
forget,
today.
I forget I got to keep advancing the slide.
Okay, so we have another webinar, right? So today we covered what are the biggest opportunities that we're seeing across the board to go take your unfair share, take more market share now. Next Thursday, the 22nd at 1, we're going to talk about the 5 proven tips to convert sellers to closings. So this is going to talk about, okay, now you've got the appointment, right? You're getting more appointments. Now, what has to happen in the consultation? What are the discussions that lead to decisions, right? For them to decide to choose to work with you. How do you display your value? And how do we price it right ahead of the market? And also, what pricing expectations, right? We always say authorship is ownership, getting them where sometimes in pricing right now, it feels like me versus you, right? With a seller versus it's us against the market, right? So, Erin and I are really excited about our 2 courses that we're launching June 4th and June 5th. So if any of this resonated or you're like, hey, I want the systems, hey, I want the plug and play, hey, I have opportunity here. I need the dialogue. I want this, right? You're ready to work smarter versus harder. Go take more listings, play offense versus defense in the market, which is what we do when we are listing focused. We've got Take More Listings now launching on Wednesday. We will go through everything that we just went through plus more. We obviously only have 30 minutes, so we can't go into all of it. And then convert sellers to closings. We're running them simultaneously for the first time because when you get the appointments, which if you've taken our courses in the past, we have got the feedback, oh gosh, I'm setting these appointments. Now what, right? What do I need to have prepared for the appointment? What do I need to say? So this is where we're going to talk about the consultation. We're going to go through exact role play of our dialogue for consultation with do's and don'ts, pricing, which again is a huge one. If you've got listings that are not selling or sellers are being stubborn on the price, it's a big one.
So, so Emily, a simple way to say it is if you want to go take more listings, if you need more listings, that's the first one. The second one, convert sellers to closings. If you have listings or if you have a lot of appointments that aren't converting, take that one.
Or if you want both, take both. And so we are really excited about this. So we are launching, like we said, the first week of June, 6 weeks, hour long. They are all recorded. You will have access to the recordings for 2 months after the 6 weeks. So basically right into early September. If you do both, yes, when you sign up for both, use that code and you will get 20% off. That only works when you take both. So when you sign up for both, and yes, Graham and Maps does check that, you will not get a discount unless you're registered for both.
That was
Awesome.
fast and furious.
It was so
Awesome.
fun. Our favorite topic. Okay. Well, we will see you all on our next session on the 22nd, and we can't wait to learn with you and grow in June.
See you, everybody.
Bye.